that multidisciplinary programs could help in those situations.
Hello, my name is Stella. For those who don't know me, I work as personal trainer for financial life planning. I welcome you to the podcast, Boss Up Your Life in Finances. Health and vitality are one of the topics of financial life planning. So in this episode, we are going to talk about your mental and financial health. My guest today is Marina Zart, a clinical psychologist, career counselor, and entrepreneur. Hey, Marina, welcome.
Hello, Stella. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yes, Marina, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I'm really excited about the conversation that we are about to have today about our mental health, about female. I'm really excited.
Thank you. Me too.
The other day, I was booking an appointment for the annual maintenance and inspection of my car with the dealer. And that got me thinking. Oftentimes they get better care of our cars, our material stuff, than we do it for ourselves. We take our cars for the maintenance once or twice a year. We check if the mechanics are still working. So, especially females, oftentimes we are not aware of where we stand in life in relation to what we really want. And it is because we tend to prioritize someone else's needs above our own. It is like it is a gap between the life that we want to live and the life that we are actually living. We tend to choose careers that doesn't necessarily align with what we want. We are afraid to leave toxic situation, toxic relationship. We are afraid to make mistakes. We are afraid to make the wrong decisions. There is a lot going on in our minds oftentimes. And Marina will help us navigate through those emotions, understand them. So Marina, before we start, for those who don't know you, who is Marina?
Well, this question is always complex and simple at the same time. So I will try to summarize. I'm Marina. I am originally from Brazil, but I live in the Netherlands since 2019. I am a psychologist and I have worked in organizations for more than 10 years, developing leaders, managers, people, and also creating mental health and development programs for people. And now I work as a clinical psychologist and career counselor, and I am an entrepreneur, as you said, Stella. Other than that, of course, I have other roles in my life. So I am a partner, I am a dog mom, I'm a person, I'm a woman. So I do think this is something we will talk a lot during this conversation about the roles we have and the roles we want to have and prioritize in our life.
Why is it so difficult for us to focus on ourselves, prioritizing ourselves?
Well, Stella, yeah, I do think that it's very difficult for us to focus on ourselves and put ourselves on the first place because of different things. But mainly, of course, we are born and raised in a society that taught us that we are not on the first place. So I would start with this idea that we didn't learn how to prioritize our needs, our emotions, and what is important for us. So usually we focus more on what is external and what is not inside of us, which of course is not healthy for ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with you. If I see from my perspective, we indeed have different roles. I'm a mom, as you mentioned. You are dog mom.
Yes.
I'm a woman. I have my own needs. I'm an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, I need to perform accordingly. I am a daughter. I am a sister.
A friend.
A friend.
Yeah.
There is a lot going on, and it is so challenging to fulfill those goals. And what I've noticed is that we have the tendency to pressure ourselves, that we have to perform 100% all the time in all of these roles that we have in that particular moment. So it is quite challenging.
Definitely.
Until we are faced with, in my case, was multiple physical impairments, because I thought I am a Wonder Woman. I used to think that I am Wonder Woman. Now I've learned, no, I'm just Stella.
Oh, and we tend to think that we can fulfill all these roles on the same level, on the same performance rate, but this is impossible. So it is really impossible for us to have all these roles and spend the same amount of time, the same amount of energy, and perform 100% in all of these roles all at the same time. So it's really important for us to start thinking about that, start understanding and having more self-awareness about what are these roles that we have, what are the important aspects of our lives, and what is important for me now, and what should I focus my energy and my time now. And this can change over time.
Right. So you're talking about self-awareness. Before we go to self-awareness, what causes that we deal so much with mental challenges and emotional challenges?
Yes. So, well, I would say that mental health is a multi factor situation and problem. So it's never just one thing. And it's a combination of different things in our lives that can lead us towards not a good mental health state. And I always talk with my patients about some pillars that are really important in our lives. And I always start with the basics. And when I say basics, I mean three main things that we need to pay attention in order to be able to talk about more deeper stuff. So we always start talking about sleep and how is the quality of our sleep. So this is something really, really important in our lives. The second part is our diet. And of course, as a psychologist, I'm not a specialist in nutrition or diet, but this is a really important part of our health in general. And the third aspect is exercise, which is also a very important aspect and regulator for our humor, for our health, and of course, mental health. So I always say that we start therapy, we start psychotherapy talking about these three main pillars. And if this is not organized or not going well, we first work on that and then we start working on the mental, emotional aspects of our life. So we always start with that and then we go towards, developing self-awareness and developing more connection with ourselves and our emotions.
Right. So what you're saying is, let me summarize, is really you start with the basics, which is taking care of your sleep. The quality of your sleep matters. The quality of your food, your diet matters, and how much physical activities you are having. Those are the three components that you always established as basis to start in counseling session with you. And from there, you go to the therapy process. And one of the things that you have mentioned is self-awareness. What is self-awareness according to your personal, according to your perception and according to your professional experience?
Yes. Well, Stella, self-awareness, there are several, of course, definitions and literature about that. But summarizing, I would say that self-awareness is being aware about our thoughts, our emotions, and consequently of our behaviors and why we do things or don't do things. And of course, also being aware about our values and about what is important for us in that moment. And I am reinforcing the in that moment because I strongly believe that we change over time and we can change also what is important for us in that specific moment. But summarizing self-awareness is understanding ourselves, connecting with ourselves, and then consequently we can make better decisions or decisions that are more likely to be aligned with what is important to us. And also setting our own boundaries, which is something very, very important for our mental health.
I can definitely see, I can definitely relate to that. Well, part of the financial life planning process is that self-awareness part where you come to an agreement with yourself. You will take a look at yourself. What do you value the most in your life? What is important to you? Because if those things are not aligned, it will be quite challenging to establish what financial needs you will have, of the way you
Definitely.
will be spending your monies.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
For instance, the basic is self-awareness, your self-worth. What are your values? Mine has become health. Health is my number one. It used to be performance. It used to be business. Because we tend to think that we are static. No, we are not static. We change over time, as you mentioned before. So when I was aware of that, by the way, I went through a whole process to come to terms to that with that I have changed, that I don't need to keep applying the same strategy that I applied years ago, because I am not the person that I used to be. I said I used to think that I was Wonder Woman, which is not the case.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I do think this is a really good example, Stella. So you realize that your health is your number one priority. Otherwise, you are not, happy or satisfied. So if on your daily basis you spend, I don't know, almost all your day working or fulfilling other roles you have in your life, but you don't spend a little bit of time on your number one priority, which is your health, probably in the end of the day, you won't be satisfied with yourself. So it's not for the others, it's for yourself. So this is what I mean with being self-aware and understanding yourself and trying, of course, not every day. We are not robots, so it's impossible to do that every day, but to be able to make decisions that on our daily basis we can prioritize those stuff.
Yeah.
And this is definitely connected with the financial planning, as you said. In taking again your example, so if you are spending, I don't know, 50% of your income on, I don't know, traveling or buying new clothes, but in the end of the day, going to the gym or buying healthy food or going to the psychologist is more important for you, then you are prioritizing that not in the best way.
Yeah, in that sense, I would be not prioritizing the things that make sense to me. I would
Yes,
be prioritizing the wrong things,
yes,
which is one of the leading causes of insatisfaction for many people.
definitely.
Yeah, and then I will take that to the corporate world, where there is a lot of pressure, and then I will be discussing burnout.
Yes,
What is burnout?
yes. Well, so nowadays we have the definition from the World Health Organization that burnout is a condition as a consequence of chronic work stress. So we always have to think about burnout as a work condition. So of course that it occurs with a person, and this person has a life which is also outside of work, and maybe there are stressors that are from the outside life. But at the same time, burnout is always related to work and a lack of management of this stress on the work environment.
Right. And when we are talking about burnout, I always I tend to see things as following. Everything is connected in our life. Everything. So I have a hard time understanding that burnout is only related to work. For instance, you have this woman, she just gave birth and then she goes back to work. So there is a relation between the expectations that they have, the company has, about how she is supposed to be performing and the way she will be actually able to perform after having maternity leave.
Yes, definitely. So you are completely right. So in this case, taking this example, and I used to see that quite a lot when I used to work in organizations. So women that just came back from maternity leave, and then they had the expectation, and also the company had the expectation that they would come back and not only fulfill the same role, but perform on the same level as they were doing that before. But let's be honest that this woman is passing through several major changes in her life. So not only biological changes in the sense of hormones and everything that is happening on the body, but also in terms of new roles that she's having to take, for example, as a mom. And therefore, yeah, it is a really tough and difficult time. And when I say burnout, it is a work related condition. I mean that usually these women, when they come back to work, they should have, or it would be ideal for them to have support in this reintegration, because it is a reintegration and they are different, their lives are different. And not only the company, but their managers, their team should be able to support them in different ways, from different, in different type of ways, to reintegrate into the company in a smoother way for them to feel healthy.
And because they don't get the proper support from the company, right? The company is not prepared to receive, in that case, a woman with maternity leave, which has just had maternity leave. So they go back to that same environment that they used to be, that they used to perform. And then they get the pressure. I need to perform, I need to do it. But they have also to combine with their private lives, which seems to be shocking. How is it possible that is just ridiculous?
Yes,
Ridiculous.
it is. And
It is
we are,
ridiculous.
yeah, and especially we are now in 2023, and we are still talking about those challenges, but this is real. So not only, and of course, here we are talking about women specifically, but we could also expand for other groups as well. So if we think about paternity leave in general, for women and for men in most part of the countries and most part of companies, it is very different the amount of days or weeks or months that men and women can get as paternity leave, which is also very difficult for women to be able to perform in the way they would like to. So this is one factor. Another factor, as you said, the companies, they are definitely not prepared, or they don't have programs that are focused on helping these groups to come back to work in a healthier manner, for example.
Which is ridiculous, seriously. I mean,
Yes,
they complain about women working part-time the most of time, which has a huge impact on the finances because she's working part-time. She's not able to make the same amount as money as she used to, but she's also not able. There was a research actually about that. She's not saving enough for her pension for the old days, which is also shocking. You know, the cycle goes on. Why do you
yes.
think that despite everything that is happening, despite the that things have to change, why do you think that there's still no much changing in the corporate world to create programs so that when someone comes back in that environment, she feels welcome?
Um, well, that's a very difficult question in the sense that, again, I do think it's a combination of different factors that influence on that. I do think one of the factors is that, yeah, you need to spend money and time to create those programs, and therefore, some companies they don't focus on that. So I do think this is one of the reasons. I also think also because of this pressure that women feel from the society, from the institutions they are part of. Sometimes they don't raise their hands, also asking for help because they need to fulfill those roles and also perform on that same expectations that were created for them. So they are afraid a lot of times with a good reason to ask for help. And then it's also difficult for the company to provide this help because they don't know or they are not focusing on this problem. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So there is the pressure part. There is the company that doesn't want to now doesn't want to. They don't have the resources, or they have, but they are not making the resources. That is my opinion.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, it's about making money, profit. And
yes,
there are not many companies that actually focus on the well-being of
yeah,
employees. But there is also another factor. When I was going through my process, I went. That was when I got the knowledge about therapy. I had a multidisciplinary therapy, which involved psychology, occupational therapy, Tai Chi, Tai
yeah,
Chi, archery, which archery helped me gain awareness of things, of letting go, literally letting go. It was so enlightening. I was there doing what I was supposed to do, and then I kept the arrow for such a long period that my arm started hanging, which was hurting my arm. That was literally an awareness moment. Let it go, Stella. When you let it go, just things will flow. And it was that particular moment that I came to the realization how rigid I was with my towards myself, that I literally needed to let go. But it took different disciplines to help me gain that awareness, to help me also value the power of therapy, which I didn't like.
yeah,
I hate
yeah,
it. And
yeah.
then
And
yeah,
I,
in companies, there is a lack. From my experience, there is a lack of multidisciplinary approach to deal with those things. Is that your experience?
yes, definitely. And I love your example with the archery because it's a really good metaphor about, yeah, letting go and controlling and also understanding that things change and we need to be flexible about that. So taking back the example of a woman that comes back from maternity leave, it's also a path for her to understand that she's different now and her priorities are different now. And she has different roles and different a different life and different again wishes. And this is not easy at all. And coming back to the question about how do I see that in companies, yeah, I really believe that multidisciplinary programs could help in those situations. Also because people are quite different, so there is no one size fits all. And of course, there are scientific based, for example, therapies that could help in those situations. But I also believe that a combination of different things, we spoke in the beginning about sleep, about health, about diet, about exercise. And those are not psychological things, but they can influence your mental state. So, yeah, definitely a multidisciplinary strategy could be really good in those cases.
I'll make a bridge to freelancers. You have those group who are females that just had maternity leave, and then you also have freelancers who work on the contract. They have to perform regardless. They just get paid to do the job. How do they adapt to those situations? I mean, burnout also applies to them.
Definitely.
What do you see in your experience?
Definitely. So I would say that freelancers and also entrepreneurs
Yes,
would
entrepreneurs.
fall, would fall not exactly on the same, but in a similar situation because, they don't have the support from the organization or the institution that they are part of. And therefore, not only self-awareness, but support from specialists would be something really important in those cases. So not only support from, family, friends, or whoever could support in this journey, but also, mental health professionals like psychologists, but not necessarily just psychologists. But this is something really, really important because in those cases, you have less choices, right?
Yes, definitely. And there is such a lack of support in that sense, but there is also so many taboo when it comes to that, you know. We have the privilege to live in the society where there is help available. You said sometimes we just don't ask for help. We think that we are supposed to do it ourselves. We are supposed to figure all out, you know, we all doers. I do it all. That is nonsense. You know, just ask for help. Even if you know the process, just ask for help, you know, just delegate.
Yes,
Going back to how we pressure ourselves, entrepreneurs tend to do that the most. Freelancers tend to do that the most.
yes.
Yes, they don't have the support. And yes, there is also the egocentric part of us, the ego.
Yeah, and of course, here we are taking just a snapshot of the problem, let's say, because of course there is a responsibility also from the government to make, programs and rules that would help these groups as well. And as you said, we live in the society of doing instead of being, and this comes from ages. And I do think we are walking into a better path in that sense. I do think we are talking more about not just doing, but also being. I do think we read more about it. We listen more podcasts that talks about it, but we still live in this society that is really focused on what we do instead of who we are.
Just the answer is being in an environment that allowed us, of creating an environment that allows us just to be instead of doing. That is the
Yes.
final answer to all. Yeah.
Yes, and as you said before as well, there are certain pressures that comes from ourselves, but also externally from people that love us, that also have their expectations, and sometimes we try to achieve those expectations. But if they are not aligned with what it's important for us, then we have a misalignment.
Yes, yes. When we don't meet those expectations, we tend to indeed have a misalignment because from we both come from, we have different backgrounds than the Dutch. They are more self-focused, and in our society we are more about the group, the people, but also more people pleasing, which is
Yes,
which is a danger. So we are also dealing with cultural factors. For those out there, maybe in those situations, they are struggling with burnout, with depression, with anxiety, with physical impairments. What kind of advice would you give them just to cope with the situation that they are dealing with currently?
I always think that's a very difficult question, because as we discussed before, people are so different, and they have so many different needs. At the same time, I always say that starting by looking inwards and getting more self-awareness, and sometimes you need professional help for that. This would be definitely a first step, because I strongly believe that if you have more self-awareness, you are able to not only make decisions, but to live your life more accordingly to your values and what is important to you. And therefore, have less stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, as you said. But of course, also being more compassionate towards ourselves, because we spoke a lot about pressure, about fulfilling those roles, about women being under those expectations, and we forget that we are just individuals, people, women,
Human
and
being.
not the Wonder Woman. So I would say a combination of, and of course, here I am trying to summarize, and I could talk about it for hours and hours, but I would say, of course, it's starting by being self-compassionate, but also looking for help to getting more awareness about yourself.
That is also that is why I love my job so much. The best part of it is really help people gain awareness. I don't provide all the solutions, but it is a very good tool to really help them align their finances with what they want, which starts
Definitely.
with who are you. It's such a simple question, but as you mentioned in the beginning, it's also very complex. Who are you?
Yes.
And who you are now is not who you used to be. Who are you today? What is important to you? What makes you laugh? What makes you cry? What makes you annoyed? What
Yeah.
that is important. From there, you are going to see, who do I want to have around me? What kind of relationships do I want to build? You will set better boundaries. I don't want to deal with those group of people because they don't necessarily align with my values. It's the
Definitely.
same approach as when you are running a business. All the departments has to be aligned in order the business to be a success. And then when you assess those different departments of your business, you will see who is the expert that can help me with that to get where I want. And from there, you will see, all right, how much is going to cost me? One of my main values is mind health. Nothing comes first that. What do I need to be in shape? My physical health, my mental emotional health, my diet. My diet is more expensive than it used to be.
Yes, yes. And I always say, Stella, which is a very simple metaphor, but I do think it's quite true. When we enter into the airplane to fly somewhere, they always explain about the procedures, the instructions in the beginning of the flight, and they always say, if you have a child with you, first you put the mask on yourself, and then you take care of
Someone
whoever is
else.
with you. And this is true in our whole life. So if we are just taking care of others and we are not taking care of ourselves, one day this will break.
Yeah.
And yeah, indeed, and of course, we have to fulfill some roles in our lives, but ourselves, we need to take care of ourselves. Otherwise, we are not able to take care of others.
Also, talking about the solution, be more compassionate, love yourself more. That is the bottom line. Love yourself more. Don't be so rigid. I used to be that. It took me a very scary moment, very scary moment. I was driving to my work, and I couldn't see. I was blind. That is what you call aura migraine.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a scary moment. That was when I came to realization that it was not only about the amount of stress that I was dealing with on a daily basis, but also the quality of food that I was feeding my body with. And one of the misconceptions that I have learned is that sometimes we think that only jobs that we don't like, that are not aligned with our values, can cause burnout, which is not the case. But because when we love something too much, we tend to overdo.
Yes, you're right. And we often think that burnout, we often think that someone that is in a burnout, that this person is just tired, doesn't like the job, don't want to work. And actually, in the reality, a lot of times, this is actually the opposite, is the person that is overworking, is the person that is overstressed, over worried, because that means so much that the person burned out. Uh, yeah, and this is indeed a misconception.
And that all comes back to our values. Many people get the sense of self-worth from the job that they are doing. So besides loving what you're doing, they get also the sense of self-worth from it, which is really hard to beat.
Yes, and definitely it's not wrong to have some self-worth based on your work. But I reinforce here that some self-worth, because we cannot put all of our expectations in just one of the pillars of our lives. Otherwise, this is not in balance.
Indeed, everything is a network. Everything.
Yes,
The way you
yes,
speak, the way you stand, the way you breathe, everything is network. If something is not working properly, it will affect the other areas of your life.
yes. And I also reinforce what you mentioned before, and I think it's really, really important. You mentioned the question, who are you, but also what makes you happy. And usually, when we ask people what makes you happy, they answer things like, it makes me happy when my child is smiling. It makes me happy when my partner is doing whatever. But this doesn't talk about you. What makes you happy? And this is the question we should ask us often. And it doesn't matter if it will be the same answer as 1 year ago, because probably it won't. And it's healthy that it won't because we change over time. But we need to remember to connect with those subjective parts of ourselves. Otherwise, we keep just living and not thinking and connecting with ourselves.
What is living an extraordinary life for you?
Oh, wow. That's a very philosophical question. Well, I would say that for me, living an extraordinary life is being aware about what is important to me and making sure I can spend time on those pillars. And this is not static. What is important for me today might be different than from 1 year from now. Uh,
Yeah.
but as long as I can live accordingly to that, and of course connecting with my values, I do think it's a life worth living, let's say.
In my own words, is about living with passion.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a great definition. It's living with passion and with connection. And when I say connection, is connection with yourself
Yeah.
and what matters to you.
Well, thank you so much, Marina, for sharing your wisdom from a woman. First of all, from a woman point of view, from a professional, from an entrepreneur. Thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Steph.
I hope that everyone there uh, have enjoyed as much as we did. We had a talk, the girls
Yes.
talk.
Thank you, Stella. Thank you so much for having me.
If you found it worthwhile, stay connected. Marina, where can people find you?
Yes, so people can find me on my website, which is marinazart, which is my name.com, or on Instagram, which is marinazart.psychologist. So you can find me there. You can send me messages. I will be happy to hear from you.
Yes, please do that. She has a lot to give, to teach us. I'm one of her fans now, so
Yeah, and I have a lot to learn with all of you.
yes, stay connected. Marina's detail will be available in the description. Thank you all for listening or watching. If you are ready to start your journey, I have created an guideline, financial life planning guideline, just to help you get started with the self-awareness part. Who are you? What is important to you? Would you like to change career or to start your own business? Marina can help you with that. And then, just start your journey. And remember, financial autonomy is a lifestyle and not a destination. I want, I can, I do, I am. Thank you for listening. Until next time.